Hello and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Wednesday, December 6, 2017, and this is episode 41. My name is Carol and I am known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry. The show notes for this and every episode can be found on the blog and also in the episode thread in the Ravelry group. So if there's anything I talk about that isn't linked in either of those places, feel free to message me on Ravelry or on YouTube and I'll try and answer your question as soon as I can. Welcome to any new viewers we might have and also to returning visitors. As always, I really appreciate your support each week. A special thank you to Lisa of 90% Knitting and Emily of Fibertown, who recently took part in the Knit Life survey that I had tagged them in and gave me a shout out on their podcast. So thanks for that. And I suspect a few new viewers may have come from there. So I'll just briefly tell you a little bit about myself. I live in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, not too far from Vancouver. I'm married, live with my husband, and our 3 kids have all grown and flown the nest. Our daughter has children of her own, so we have 3 grandkids that we get to see, and all our kids live quite close to us, within a few miles, so we get to see them quite often. I used to work in a yarn and needle workshop. I've worked in a craft store, worked in fabric stores, so I have quite a background in knitting and sewing and other crafts. And so now I've just expanded that into a new way of, dealing with those by doing this podcast. I started it earlier this year and I'm having a blast. So let's get into today's episode. Actually, before we do that, 2 things. First off, in our Ravelry group, I am running a continual knit along, crochet along called the Agatha Christie Along. And I'm doing that in conjunction with reading my way through my Agatha Christie collection. So this is going to be going for a while. You can jump in anytime and you can enter as many times as you like. I draw a prize each month from all of the finished projects, right from the beginning to the end of the knit along. So you can win more than once, but only once for each project. And speaking of, I did random number generator this morning and drew our latest winner, who actually happens to be last month's winner, only for a different project. So this month, M. Everingham or Marilyn wins for her Orient Express Crescent, which is a beautiful crescent-shaped shawl that she knit way back at the beginning of this knit along. So congratulations again, Marilyn. You know the drill. Message me on Ravelry and tell me which pattern you would like, up to a value of $10 US. That is giftable on Ravelry, and I'll get it in your inbox as soon as I can. And I am going to have a giveaway this week. It's the holidays, it's winter, it's that festive season, so I'm going to give away one of my project bags that I recently made with these winter theme cardinals and sparkly fabric on the bottom and on the inside. It holds a sock project really easily. So if you are interested in winning this project bag, you can leave a comment in either the episode thread in the Ravelry group or in the YouTube comments and tell me what your favorite thing is about winter, what you like about winter the most. And I will draw for this next time I podcast. Now let's jump into things. I have a finished project to show. I have lots of works in progress. I have some sewing, a little bit about what I'm reading, a new book this week, some acquisitions from Black Friday, and I'll tell you a little bit about what's going on in my week and what's coming up in the future. So right now I'm going to just show you my beautiful David's tea mug, and I'm drinking today's Advent calendar tea, and it is mint. Can't remember the whole name of it, but it's a mint tea. So I haven't tried it yet, just made it. very nice. Very nice. Just added a little bit of milk, no sweetener. It's lovely. So, first finished project. I have to find it. Here it is. So I've knit this hat, calling it the sparkly pink hat because it is both pink and sparkly. This is for my granddaughter for Christmas. She's turning 3 at the end of the year. Well, I might even give it to her for her birthday. I haven't decided yet, but it's her. They're so close together. So birthday or Christmas present, and it's made from this yarn. It's from Premier Yarns, Isaac Mizrahi, I think is how you say that, crafts. This yarn is called Carnegie Hill, and the colorway is Merryweather. So as you can see, it's this chunky yarn with this kind of a novelty yarn wrapped around it. I am not enjoying knitting it. The needle tends to get caught in these little loops, but it does knit up fairly quickly because it's chunky. So that didn't take very long. That sort of knit in a few different slots of time over a few days. And then I've been working on a scarf to match. So I'm almost through my first ball of yarn, and I just cast on 140 stitches on a 6mm needle, and I've been knitting away. So I did a lengthwise garter stitch scarf. As you can see, I thought it would complement the garter stitch on the hat brim. So I have that little bit of yarn, and then I'm going to use up the leftovers from the hat, and then I'm going to call it done. So I still have one skein left. I bought it at Michael's. They had a buy two get one deal, and I didn't know how much I'd need. So my older granddaughter, she's turning 13 in February, and she's just started this last week, picked up the needles again and got a refresher lesson from her mom on how to knit. So I'm thinking I might just pass the extra ball along to her, and there's probably enough in there for her to make herself a hat or maybe a cowl if she was interested. So it's definitely not my style. Although that brings me to, I skipped what am I wearing, and I see it's not entirely in the screenshot, so I'll stand up a little bit. It happens to be pink and sparkly too, but I think it's prettier, more my style. This is the Potter's Shawl by Jen Lucas, and I knit it a couple of years ago from some yarn that was dyed up by Woolly Wonka as a special colorway for Simply Sock Yarn Company for their 10th anniversary celebration. So I remember at the time they had offered up a skein as a giveaway, and I didn't wait to see if I won. I just liked it so much I ordered it. So again, it's just a lovely tonal yarn with a little bit of brown and pink. I love brown and pink together, so that's what drew my eye. And the shawl came out of I think it was an Interweave or a Knit Scene magazine, but the details are on my project page, and I'll link them in the show notes. Okay, let's move on after that diversion to works in progress. So you've seen the scarf that I'm knitting, and pardon me, with the beginning of Advent last week, I have begun my Land of Sweets cowl. That's a cowl pattern by Helen Stewart as part of her Knit Vent collection this year. And because it calls for 24 mini skeins, or at least the original version was knit that way, I have pulled 24 yarns from my sock yarn stash, and each day I am knitting a new one as we move through Advent. So day 6, so I have 6 stripes there. I'm not going to bother naming all of the yarns. If you're really interested, you can ask me about a particular one, or I have been doing Vlogmas, and each day I am identifying which yarn's going into here. So I'm sure some of them you can't get anymore anyway. So yeah, I'm pleased with how that's knitting up so far. This stripe is obviously the most noticeable, but it also varies as it goes around. Oh, you can hear the garbage trucks picking up the recycling there. Sorry for the noise. So yeah, so that's been really fun to work on each day, a little bit of knitting just for myself in the midst of a bunch of gift knitting. Speaking of, I've made quite a bit of progress on my brother-in-law's boot socks. I think they're about here. No, actually, I had just started the leg when I spoke to you last. So as you can see, this one's got a little bit more done, but I've made my way, done a contrasting heel, and I am making my way down the foot. So this is just my own pattern, styled after, you know, a lot of similar patterns that have this striped cuff and a contrasting heel and toe. And the yarn I'm using is this Elan A Series SO1. So this is the light gray heather, or light gray, but it is heathered, color 17. The dark gray stripe here is color 15, and then this they call cream, color number 2. So I've just been working on these when I need a mindless stockinette project, so watching TV and such, and so they're coming along quite rapidly, which I'm glad, because honestly this kind of project, as much as I like to gift it, is not that exciting to knit, and so I'm going to be kind of glad when it's done. Alright, I'm just going to set this down so it doesn't fall. I'm also knitting my husband a pair of socks for Christmas, but they haven't changed very much since last week when I showed you. The yarn is Online Super Sock Merino color. It's a sport weight, and this color is 2028, which is blues and grays. So I think last week when I showed you, I had just cast on both socks and got up to the end of the toe decreases, and then I started knitting on them, and they felt just a little bit too wide, and I compared them to some of my husband's other socks and decided that 64 stitches was just a little bit too many, so I took it back to the end of the took it back to the end of the toe, or beginning of the toe, depending which direction you're doing, and I took it down to 60 stitches and have continued knitting straight, and I think those will fit a lot better now. So I've got that one with that much done, and this one I have only made it one stripe. Whoops, yarn everywhere. One stripe past the toe increases. So I can't work on these when Cameron's around, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to start squeezing these in during the daytime if I'm going to get them done for Christmas. But they're nice, easy project, that's for sure. And enjoyable because the colors change. This mint tea is very nice. Not too strong, really nice minty flavor. So last but not least, I cast on my socks. Whoops, it's always the danger of yarn rolling around here. I cast on my socks for the Grocery Girls December Sock Bash, and I'm using this Arnie and Carlos yarn, and it's in colorway 3760, which is Garden. And even though it's not really a Christmas colorway, you've probably seen this. A lot of people are knitting it, and it has this red and green and gray that really makes it look Christmassy. So I was looking at projects on Ravelry that used it just to see kind of how it was going to stripe up. And I came across, it's in my show notes, or in my project page notes. I found a Raveler who had knit this pattern with this yarn, and I liked the way it looked, so I copied her. So it's the Fruit Gum Stripe Socks, and that's by Leah Oakley. And it's just a 1-row stitch repeat that makes the yarn do a spiral, kind of a spiral rib, and really plays with this striped yarn that makes it look like it's going, little diamonds on its side. So this has been a really surprisingly easy project, but really fun to watch how the yarn is knitting up. So it's perfect for this time of year. It's a little bit more fun than just a stockinette sock, but it's not so complicated that I can't just sit down and knit a few rows when I have a few minutes. I don't need to refer to the pattern or anything like that now that I learned the secret to doing that. So it is a paid for pattern, so I won't tell you how to achieve this, but I can definitely see myself knitting more of these with my other self-striping yarns. I think it's just a really fun way to play with the stripes. So happy with those, and look forward to knitting on those more as the month progresses. And I hope they're done by Christmas. That's the aim. So that's it for all my works in progress, at least as far as knitting goes. I've also been sewing this week. So I've been working on nightgowns for my granddaughters. So it's this pattern here, McCall's 6831. And I'm making this view here, the longer one. I'm only putting lace at the yoke here, not at the bottom and at the bottom of the sleeves. So I've finished the one for my younger granddaughter. As I said, she's turning 3 at the end of the year. I think it's going to be a little bit big, but I'd rather that than have her outgrow it right away. So I added a little satin bow there. Just use this eyelet lace. It has buttons at the back. And sleeves have a kind of a elastic at the bottom. Yeah, so that's for Christmas present. So I'm happy to get another gift done. And then I will be starting my older granddaughter's one this week. She's just about 13. So I'm not sure how she's going to feel about a ruffly nightgown. But the first pattern I really considered, they didn't have it in her size at the fabric store, and I really wanted to get going. So I think she won't mind too much, and I think she'll have fun matching her sister. This fabric is what I'm going to be using for her, and this fabric had belonged to her grandmother who passed away this summer, and so my daughter gave it to me, and we sort of talked about making the girls something from it. I only had enough to do one project, so I had lots of it, so I chose the older granddaughter. So I think even if she's not super keen on the style, she'll wear it, and she'll appreciate that where the fabric came from. So now I've done one. Whipping up the second shouldn't be too hard since I'm already familiar with the pattern. What am I reading this week? Well, I haven't gotten back to the audiobook of The End of the Affair. I've just been watching other things instead of listening while I've been knitting, etc. But I did begin reading a new book this week. My sister messaged me the other day, and she told me that it was on the Kindle version was on sale on Amazon for $1.99. So I jumped on that, and the book is called Caroline, Caroline Little House Revisited. And what it is the story that's more or less told in Little House on the Prairie by Laura Ingalls Wilder. But it's supplemented by Laura's more factual account that she wrote called Pioneer Girl. That was the original manuscript that all of the Little House books were drawn from. And so this story is told through the eyes of her mother. So it's more of an adult book, and just tells the story of the Ingalls family moving from their little house in the big woods of Wisconsin to Kansas, or what was called at that time Indian Territory, and setting up a homestead there. So far they're still on their journey to where they're going. So that's I think about 4 or 5 chapters in. So it's interesting. Definitely, I've always both in the children's novel Little House on the Prairie, and then in Laura Ingalls Wilder's Pioneer Girl manuscript, always told, had the story told through Laura's eyes. And it is really interesting when you think of it from not just an adult's eyes, but from her mother's eyes, her mother's point of view, and all the preparations that she had to take care of to embark on this journey, and leaving behind family members, knowing you probably would never see them again, and the leaving behind belongings that have made your home a home for the last however many years, and not being able to take them with you. All of their belongings had to fit in this covered wagon. It's been a really interesting read. I would recommend it if you have any interest in Laura Ingalls Wilder and her story. Certainly, like I say, it's interesting getting the idea of her life from a different perspective. Acquisitions. I took advantage of Black Friday, as I told you last podcast. So some of my yarn has arrived. I placed an order with Sweet Georgia Yarns. They're actually in Vancouver, so they're not too far from where I live, but they're too far to go pick it up in their studio. So I ordered this variegated colorway called Mirror Pond, and with the idea of matching it with 2 other yarns to make a 3-color shawl. So I chose this as Sea Spray, and then this green is Pistachio. So I sort of chose the colors based on what I could see from the pictures on their website, and also some projects on Ravelry, and then I asked them to please let me know if they're not a good match, but actually, as you can see, they really match well. So I don't know what shawl that's going to be, but I look forward to that as a future project. And the main reason I actually ordered from them is because I wanted to get my hands on a skein of London Fog. And these are all the Tough Love sock, by the way. I am currently knitting the Cedarburg shawl. And on their website, they did have some combinations, suggested yarn sets for that shawl. And one of them was with Anthem, which I already owned, and London Fog, and then Orchid, which is one of the colors I'm using to knit my Cedarburg shawl, and it's kind of this fuchsia pink color. And I have this set of Party of 5 set that features 4 shades of pink and purple and a bright shade of yellow. And viewers who have watched for a while know that I tried to use it in the surprise party shawl and didn't really like how it turned out. So I've ripped it all out, and what I plan to do is combine these two skeins plus the skeins from this Party of 5 set in some kind of shawl project, most likely. So I'll just pull them out. So I think they go rather well, and I look forward to casting those on at some point, and as yet don't know what pattern I'll use, but that's half the fun is going through Ravelry and picking patterns out. So that's about it for what I'm working on, what I'm doing, what I'm reading. As for what's been going on this week, if you're interested in some of the day-to-day stuff, you can check out my Vlogmas episodes that I've been doing since December 1st. That has been super fun, and I've had some really good feedback, so I'm glad that you're all enjoying it. I'll just make a note, I'm not necessarily going to reply to every comment, but I'll give you a little love or a heart or something, so you know I've read it. Appreciate the comments, as always. But yeah, it's been really fun. It's been interesting to sort of think about my day in a new way and decide what parts of it that I'll share with you. For those who have been asking for a craft room tour, and there are a few of you, I actually yesterday did a really good job cleaning up my craft room. It really needed it. And I filmed a bit of a tour, and I've included it in today's Vlogmas episode, which is now up on YouTube. So look for Vlogmas Day 6. And I've been putting my Vlogmas episodes in all the usual places that I put my podcast episodes. So in the episode thread in the Ravelry group, this one is titled Vlogmas, on the blog, and also up on YouTube. Pardon me. So if you're interested, obviously you found at least this episode of my podcast somehow, but if you're interested in Vlogmas, that's where you can find them. So other than the knitting and sewing and Christmas prep we've been doing this week, we got our Christmas lights up on Sunday afternoon, got started a little later than we would have liked. My son Matt came over to help Cameron with his part. I don't like ladders or climbing on roofs, and so he helped Cam with that. Had a few little kind of mishaps or incidents. It's the second year we've had this set of lights. We bought a bunch of new ones last year, and normally I will map out where they all go and where we attach the various cords and where they get plugged into. And for some reason, we didn't do that last year, or I didn't do that last year. And so we were kind of starting from scratch. And somehow we ended up needing an extra extension cord. So Cam had to run out and grab that. And then one of the strings, one of the lights came separated from the wire, which meant that the power to that whole string was interrupted. So Matt, joined the two ends together and fixed that. So it just took a little bit more time than normal, so it was pretty well dark when we finished, but that's good, it's done. Don't have to think about it now. So there's lots to look forward to in December over the next few weeks. We have a get-together. We're having dinner with friends next Friday night. It's two couples that we try and get together at least once for sure, if not twice a year, and have dinner and just catch up. So we're doing that next Friday night. Then the next night is my husband's work Christmas party, which we always enjoy. I have lunch planned with my best friend. Her birthday is on the 8th, and she's been busy going to school, so I messaged her and said, can we figure out a time I can take you out for lunch for your birthday? So she's going to get back to me with a date that works. And so I'm looking forward to that. We've been best friends since grade 2. And so it's like a family member. You just pick up where you left off, and even though we don't get together or even stay in touch as much as either of us would like, we really appreciate the time we have together and always look forward to it, and never have enough time to say all the things we want to say. The time we're together, I know, is just going to fly by. Just before Christmas, the weekend before Christmas, Cam and I are going to drive up to go get my mom and bring her down here for Christmas. She doesn't drive, so since my dad's passed away, she needs a way to get down here, of course. So we're kind of take turns with that. So we volunteered for this year. So we haven't figured out yet if we're going to go up one night, come down the next day, or do it all in one day. But it'll partly depend on the weather, or probably almost all of it will depend on the weather. It's about a 3-hour drive by highway, so it's a fair distance to go to go and come back in one day. But my husband will be driving, and I'll let him decide what works best for him. Then after Christmas, we're going to head over to Victoria for New Year's weekend and stay a couple nights with Cameron's brother and his wife. My mother-in-law lives in Victoria, so we will see her too over the weekend, spend New Year's there, and then we're going away for a little bit of a getaway, just the two of us. We're renting a cabin on Salt Spring Island, which is one of the Gulf Islands in the Strait of Georgia that separates the mainland of British Columbia and Vancouver Island. So we've started a tradition a number of years ago of doing a little getaway when we can swing it, kind of early in the new year. And we try and find a place that we can cook our own meals, and just basically a home away from home where we can totally relax for sometimes up to a week. This is, I think, for 5 nights this time. And it's a nice way to unwind after the busy holidays and catch up on reading, and I do lots of knitting. We'll go for walks. This cottage is by a lake. In the past, we've had places right on the inlet of the ocean. So it's just a really nice retreat for us. So I'm looking forward to that. And so we've made our final plans this week and booked that. And then tickets to the Eagles concert in Vancouver for, I think it's May 10th. They went on sale Saturday morning, or Friday? I can't remember. Anyway, I snagged tickets. I think it was Friday I got tickets for that. So we'll kind of give that to each other for our birthdays. It's something we've done in the past. Our birthdays are February and March, but the event's in May, but it's kind of, we'll just do this for our birthdays because we don't usually do a whole lot for them anyway. And then one thing I'm really excited about, and again, kind of confirmed the plans and did some booking this week. I'm going to put on pause and go get a visual prop. So I don't know how many of you might have heard of this series of books called Betsy Tacy series by Maud Hart Lovelace. There are 10 books in the series, and then 3 additional ones involving peripheral characters, secondary characters. And they follow the authors growing up in a town near Minneapolis, Minnesota, called Mankato. And in the books, it's called Deep Valley. So what's interesting about the books is you can see the first one's very thin, and it starts out really geared towards children. And as the books progress, she grows from a child into a high school student, and then the last book details her wedding and first year of married life. They are written, they become more mature as the book series goes along. So this is, I'm not sure when we discovered these books, but certainly growing up. And my younger sister, Janine, in particular, has been quite involved with a group online that is sort of geared around the Betsy Tacy series. So I'm not sure if it's every year, but they have a convention, Betsy Tacy Convention. And the next one is early August of next year. And so Janine asked me, she's been before, and she asked me if I wanted to go with her this year. So we've booked the Betsy Tacy Convention and hotels for a few nights in Minnesota. And part of it, there's different speakers, and you go to Mankato and do a tour of the different houses and things, high school, etc., where all the characters, all the locations that play a role in the books. So in addition to that, Janine and I have been longtime fans of the Laura Ingalls Wilder books, not just her Little House on the Prairie series, but more of her adult writings. She used to write for a newspaper, and just her nonfiction books about her. So what we have talked about for years is doing a road trip and going to visit various Laura Ingalls Wilder related sites, places she used to live and that she wrote about. And so what we're doing in conjunction with the Betsy Tacy Convention is we're going to drive to Minnesota and stop at various stops along the way to do with Laura Ingalls Wilder, and then afterwards continue our journey south and to where she, at least that's the plan right now. I hope it works out. Planning to drive to Missouri where she lived out her life. So yeah, we've definitely booked the convention stuff. That's all a go. And then coming up in the next little bit, we'll take a look at our route, book some motels along the way, and figure out timing, etc., etc. So we're extremely excited. We've talked about this for so long, and finally it's going to happen. So yeah, road trip coming up. I love road trips in general anyway. I love driving holidays and seeing something different every day and staying somewhere different every night. So I'm really looking forward to this. We're on Friday night. We're going to babysit the kids. Our son-in-law surprised our daughter with tickets to Cirque du Soleil. So they're going to have a date on Friday night while we watch the kids. Getting haircuts done on Sunday in preparation for Christmas and stuff. It's actually, I like mine right now. It's always a thing when you kind of get your hair just the way you like, but I know if I don't cut it before Christmas, I'm going to wish I had, so I'll just get her to trim a little bit. I think that's it for this week. Don't forget, if you're interested in winning this project bag, leave a comment on either the episode thread in the Ravelry group or in the YouTube comments and tell me what you liked best about winter. If you're prepping for the holidays, all the best to you, and I hope it goes well. And if you're not, then enjoy the relaxation. It's a crazy time of year, but I do enjoy it. I will continue with my Vlogmas episodes. I've, as I said, have been really enjoying doing them, so I plan to keep doing them up till Christmas Day, or Christmas Eve, I guess. So watch for those. I've been watching Diane of Suburban Stitcher. She's doing the Adventurous wrap and knitting a little bit on it every day. And Katie Beth, or her, that's a Ravelry name, Sharon, had mentioned that she might be doing that this Advent. So are you? If you are, be sure to show us pictures. Share them in the What Are You Making thread. I'd love to see how it's coming along. It makes me really tempted to cast one on myself, because right now each day's knitting is really small. But I know I'd just be kicking myself if I actually did it, because I'm sure as you get closer to Christmas Eve, these sections are going to get longer. So I'm going to try and resist doing that. That would be crazy. Anyway, on that note, I am crazy. On that note, have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you on the Vlogmas episodes, and if not, I will see you next week. Bye. Take care.